Messenger of the Cross, Pulse Point Media. I just wanted to kind of take a look at this video. I don't know this guy's channel, but subscribe because he's posting stuff that concerns all of us, really about the Homeland Security Committee on the directed energy weapons that are being used in warfare for quite some time. So this is like just an edited recording on May 8th, 2024 Homeland Security Committee hearing focused on anomalous health incidents, commonly known as the Havana syndrome. The hearing centers on testimony from national security experts, intelligence officers, and legal representatives who argue that U.S. government personnel have been targeted and injured by directed energy attacks, both abroad and within the United States. Okay, this is all over the world, but they like to, I feel like in these hearings, blame it on other countries and talk about this as if it's, our government against other governments, and they're, attacking American citizens in the United States with these energy weapons. But under national security, all rights are suspended. They label you, they profile you, then they engage you with these weapon systems. The threat fusion centers or how they carry it out locally, basically with the amalgamation of all the different branches of the government in your local community under the terror laws. And they profile police and suspend your rights by labeling you a terrorist or labeling you a domestic threat or extremist based on criteria that is ridiculous. They've redefined, the terms and the laws to expand, basically to go after everyone and anyone, because under the idea of terrorism, let's say, this whole fake war that they've invented is a shadowy enemy that could be anyone, anywhere, at any time. So that allows them to selectively enforce the law and just profile you and go after whoever they want. And that's the danger. Okay, but let's just get into this video. Go check out this guy's video on his channel. But I just wanted to do a little commentary on this video, and we'll get into more of it. But let's just listen.
More commonly known as Havana syndrome. Period. I now recognize Lieutenant Colonel Greg Edgreen for 5 minutes on his opening statement.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, ranking members, congressmen. It is an honor to speak with you today and give voice to the unseen, the U.S. government, AHI survivors, and their families. My name is Greg Edgreen. I stood up and led the DIA's task force, which was in charge of taking care of our survivors and determining the cause. For background, I'm not an analyst. I'm a retired Army and intelligence officer. The following are my personal opinions and do not represent the opinions of the government. Given the classification of this topic, many of my comments will have to be made at a future closed-door session. As a country, we have been here before. Most people think this all started in Havana in 2016, the widely reported Havana syndrome. This led to the U.S. withdrawing most of its staff and ending rapprochement between Havana and Washington. But before Havana syndrome, there was the Moscow signal. Soviet intelligence bathed the U.S. Embassy in Moscow with microwave transmissions. The health effects were similar to what we see today. There are many examples of syndromes and ailments from Americans injured in the line of duty that the government did not recognize for many years, which were eventually proven. Agent Orange used in Vietnam, the Gulf War syndrome.
Oh, and by the way, those same companies are the ones making the food, in America.
Burn pits during the forever wars of Iraq and Afghanistan. In all of these examples, America took too long to acknowledge these injuries, and our service members languished without care. Havana syndrome is no different. The gaslighting of AHI survivors continues to this day as history repeats itself. Throughout all this, I learned America's best men and women in national security are being targeted and neutralized in a global campaign.
Neutralized means unalived.
HIs have been reported in the press in every continent except for Antarctica, with a large percentage of these attacks occurring in the homeland, in this town. The impact has been that mission-critical...
Not just in that town, in every town.
Government officials working abroad and at home are being removed from their post with TBIs. Don't take my word for it. Nikolai Patrushev, the secretary of Russia's Security Council, wrote in September 2023, and I quote, "In recent years, hundreds of employees of foreign intelligence services involved in organizing intelligence and subversive activities against our country have been neutralized, end quote. The American people are losing strategic warning and decision-making advantage in great power competition. America's
Yeah, with the psychotronic weapons systems that they have and the ability to modulate the body, the brain activity, the nervous system, they're reading your EEG in live time. They don't need a camera.
eyes are being blinded, their voices muted, their ears deafened. This is emboldening our other strategic rivals, such as China, and could encourage North Korea and Iran to take similar actions with no repercussions.
Okay, I have to stop it again, guys. I'm sorry, but we don't have to worry about those countries engaging American citizens. The intelligence services and the whole system has been put in place under the war on terror to suspend rights and profile police, and then use that, designation as an excuse to, do these extreme military style tactics of abuse and control on citizens. And, we're talking about the suspension of due process. And, there's got to be some rules of engagement in a lawful abiding society instead of just blanket surveillance, not using cameras, but using electromagnetic waves and watching everything that we do, even our body data.
We collected a large body of data, ranging from signals intelligence to human intelligence to open source reporting and everything in between. Unfortunately, I can't get into specifics based on the classification, but I can tell you, at an early stage, I started to focus on Moscow, and consistently, there was a Russian nexus. Since 2010, the number of counterintelligence incidents began to rise, and so did Russian gray zone activities. These included assassinations, poisonings, sabotage attacks against NATO allies and others, many of which has been documented by Christo. After talking with the survivors who were hit in the US and abroad, I quickly realized these were no longer isolated incidents. There were reports of CI incidents, which included harassment, room intrusions, houses being defiled, tossed, pets poisoned, assaults on our personnel, officers and diplomats being drugged, doxing, families harassed, then an attack.
This has all been done to me and for many targeted individuals out there. We're just common everyday people. We weren't committing crimes. We weren't out there causing trouble. We were minding our own business. And then one day, like a light switch, all this breakdown game and engagement and this hostility surrounded us. There was nothing we could do about it. Each adjustment we'd make a way to try to de-escalate, to try to get away from the attacks and the abuse, just amounted in more attacks and abuse because we had realized that they gamed our options, that it was very sophisticated. They knew each move we were going to make and already position people, to collapse and control those solutions, and to force warfare, to force an engagement with you that's hostile and is designed to get you to walk off the cliff and do it to yourself. And you're going to see this in this testimony at like the 8-minute mark. So hang out with me. We're going to keep going through this, but it's very important to understand what the capabilities are, what they've been doing to us, and how many of us have been sick for years. They've been just, making us sick, damaging our property, doing directed speech, doing color sensitizing to us and anchoring us to the abuse so they can do it in plain sight. I mean, you can't even make this stuff up. I wouldn't even be able to describe it if it wasn't such an engrafted part of my life by force. It's forced engagements, meaning that they remove all your ability to take care of yourself through attacking and competing over the resources and the things you have to care for yourself, because all that time, energy, and money is going to surviving the physical attacks and the shutdown of your body. You're spending all your money on health, just trying to get out of bed in the morning because of the, lethargy and everything else that can be done, hypnotizing you with these weapons and putting you in a trance, basically. So let's just keep going.
Via directed energy, a red line to many because of the debilitating nature of these weapons. The US government never hit back, and our nation's hidden heroes continue to be targeted today.
I just refute that. Our nation's heroes continue to be targeted today. I think that's a false narrative. I think that our own government is the one, operating domestically under the terror laws, and it gives them a blanket excuse to profile police and just suspend your rights and engage you. Because after all, don't you want to keep things safe and save lives? And we know that all through history, abusers will only say that as their excuse to hide behind the moral high ground. And we're ripping that moral high ground down. Like, the GIFCO is operating domestically in a scalable and is very scalable in an instant, I was trying to say, where their presence is there all the time, somewhere between their presence and under the level of armed conflict. But they are engaging you, and they're openly using these systems of control and abuse. And the street theater and the bodies on you is just a part of the abuse. I mean, it is on every level a collapse and control game to dominate you and neutralize you. And neutralize, like I said, just means eliminate your existence.
Investigators often talk about motive, means, and opportunity. First, let's look at the motive. When President Putin says things like, if one looks into the security sphere, new physical principles weapons will ensure the security of any country in the near historic perspective. We understand this very well and are working on it. If you know anything about the Russian Ministry of Defense, this is referring to directed energy weapons. Second, the means. Look at the contract for directed energy weapons, which is uncovered by my colleague Christo. Look at the open source photos of Putin awarding scientists prizes for innovation for weapons based on new physical principles.
Abusers will always, misdirect and scapegoat. You know what I mean? They'll always blame it on some shadowy enemy or some far off enemy that, where justice can't be reached. Do you know what I'm saying? Just farther and farther to a far off land. But yet, it's the Russians and the Chinese that are attacking us. You know what I'm saying? I just think that we have a system of blanket surveillance in the United States. We have become strictly a communist country, worse than North Korea. Okay. I mean, I'm just saying the levels of control and abuse that is possible here in the United States with the plausible deniability goes beyond the scope of, even to get people to believe the level of the sensational abuse that they do. Like I said, it's all customized and it's all done by design, because the more you complain about it, the more crazy you look, because who would ever do such things to you?
And third is the opportunity. Of course they can do this. As openly reported in 2014, 3 CIA officers were stationed in Ukraine that year during a popular revolt that overthrew Moscow's preferred leader. Later, those CIA officers went on to other assignments and reported AHI attacks. One in Uzbekistan, one is in Vietnam, and the third officer's family hit in London. Despite this large body of data, the ODNI said there's nothing to see here. Everything is dismissed. And last month, the NIH said there's no evidence of physical damage despite all survivors reporting the same symptoms. This same study is now under review for its methodology. I would like to point this committee to the AHI experts panel, whose findings were released in 2022, which saw all the same intelligence and information we did, but came to the opposite conclusion of the DNI. They noted that the signs and symptoms of AHIs are genuine and compelling, and that pulsed electromagnetic energy, particularly in the radio frequency range, explains the core characteristics. I think the bar for AHI
We've been saying that for years by looking at the data and the research.
attribution was set so high because we do not, as a country and a government, want to face some very hard truths. Can we secure America? Are these massive counterintelligence failures? Can we protect our people on American soil? Is this an act of war?
Always positioning themselves as the hero and the savior. That's what psychopaths do, that want control and dominance, and they take the moral high ground and pretend in an act and a script that it's some far off enemy and that they're your heroes and saviors rather. But that's just them positioning themselves in a total deceitful way, because we all know that we wouldn't have the threat fusion centers in our local communities if there wasn't this radicalization against the citizens in terms of prosecuting this war on terror and these shadowy enemies. And guess what? It was like some dude in a cave, right? That we had to give up all our rights and go under the Patriot Act and the evisceration of the Bill of Rights and the violation of posse comitatus, right? That's some other country doing it to us by suspending our rights And you're either with us or you're with, do you remember that saying? Anyway.
Despite our history of walking away from those who sacrifice for their country, I am optimistic. With congressional support, with your support, and an informed public, it is time to take action. This is a nonpartisan issue which has spanned several administrations. Let's start to get this right with executive and legislative action. First,
And Mr.
please.
Edgren, I'm going to go ahead.
Yeah, okay.
And if you can wrap up, we'll get to the.
Mr. Chairman, could I have 2 more minutes, please? 1 more minute?
1 more minute's fine.
We need to execute existing funding with the Defense Health Program, which was allocated to take care of the survivors and their families. And we should fully implement the Havana Act. And we need a VA diagnostic code because right now there is none. We need to award Purple Hearts and their civilian equivalents. On the legislative front, we need a new NDAA that covers this and a Havana Act. I would like to thank.
Oh, you mean like NDAA that like legalizes the torture of American citizens, basically, undermining due process, labeling profile policing and predictive models of policing being exercised on the American people without their awareness? Could it be?
This committee for their attention in this issue. Thank you to Oriana Zill, Michael Ray, Michael Weiss, and Christo for keeping this issue alive. I urge this committee to take care of our unseen survivors, execute existing funding, and most importantly, pressure the government to fight back. Thank you.
Guys, if your assessments here are correct, these are very covert weapons, aren't they? They don't leave behind bomb fragments, bullet holes, etc. They could absolutely be used by our adversaries and have very low level.
Again, they're spinning this whole thing used by our adversaries, but they have labeled and declared and profile policed American citizens to be those adversaries, like I said, with no due process and with no actual rules of engagement. Punishment is carried out with no proof of crimes being committed at all. Like it's just you're psychologically and profile policed. And that's just, the AI weapon system is breaking down, as it's programmed, to run the decomposition game on you. That means eliminating you with death by 1,000 cuts. And it knows the probability and possibility of each adjustment you make a way to try to save yourself. And that's why we're saying that it's so controlled and sophisticated. It is an orderly, I would say it's an orderly extermination of innocent people, like some sort of depopulation agenda, I would say, because it's done to so many people.
Levels of very easy to deny that they were even there, that they were used. Is that correct?
That's correct. There's no entry or exit wound. How they're designed is to make the target feel like they're crazy, like they're imagining things, especially on the low duration, the low intensity, long duration hits.
And remember I said that they want you to walk off the cliff yourself. So they set the environment in such a way that it's horrible and painful, and you will groan inside with the levels of them interfering with your ability to just even take care of yourself, much less, thrive and accomplish anything. You're in a battle with this invisible force, and this invisible force is controlled and it is engaging you in a hostile way. And it makes its presence known to all of us as targeted individuals in a mocking, arrogant, provoking, gaslighting way only. And they flex their power on us and continue to do it and demonstrate the level of control. Because when you start talking about the level of control in the hive-minded mob that's being directed at you through technology and how they're able to work people up into a frenzy and direct them against you, like, to punish you. And, so it's really a weaponization of human beings is what we're seeing here with these psychotronic weapon systems.
But you were saying that the targets are most often always either CIA, FBI, intelligence, law enforcement individuals. Is that correct?
No, I said diplomats, intelligence community, and Department of Defense make up the lion's share. You often don't hear about the Department of Defense, despite DoD having 5 or 10 times the number of survivors that Department of State has.
Are any of you aware of any reported incident?
By the way, I want family and friends and people to know this testimony. We're going back in this testimony, and thanks to Onion Head, Andrew, he posted it. I just give him the credit for it, but I just, want people to understand that, this is the most horrible thing that could ever happen to a person and to a society and to free association. I mean, it's absolutely a hijacking of what it means to be human.
Evidence from individuals who are not members of the United States government, domestically, I should say?
I am not, but I will throw a caveat in there. Generally, I only focused on former and current government employees that were attacked.
Oh, yeah, just not the citizens in the millions that are being sacrificed and offered up on the altar of this government and all these mega corporations. You know what I mean? As they, use this asymmetrical, like guerrilla style warfare against innocent citizens with this technological overlay of just moving into a neighborhood and being able to, control, the whole community under mind control.
Mr. Zaid, are you?
There are many people who believe they are victims of AHIs. All you have to do is look at my Twitter feed whenever I post on the topic. I only represent federal government employees and their families, so I don't focus on the accuracy of those particular claims.
And Mr. Grozev, do you have any insight?
Not on American soil, but in other parts of the world, there have been complaints that appear to be credible from Russian activists or Russian opposition leaders living abroad.
I love how they frame this. Millions of Americans are being deprived and denied of being acknowledged that we're being tortured. Bottom line, 25 years of following me around, harassing me, damage to my property, breaking in my house, poisoning me, doing all the things that this man just said.
How has the FBI handled the complaints and the, you want to call them the victim, not if you want to call them the victims and their, I guess, reaching out to within the FBI? How have they handled it?
I'm not privy to that investigation. From my incidental observations, my belief is that the FBI feel that they have to toe the line of the intelligence community on this topic, and some of them feel that they wish they could do more to protect their own colleagues.
Okay. Are they being told, is it your feeling that they're being told from superiors or others within the FBI to stand down?
I do not have evidence they've been told, but
You guys know what they're doing. What they're doing, guys, is on the dark web, they are live streaming our body data and torturing us and betting on us and gambling on who's going to survive or not. And, it's a sick world with a bunch of sick puppies online, and they're just, in the live chat on the dark web, bidding on torture. Like, do this to him, do that to him. Let's see if he gets through this. Let's see if he gets through that. Shut his heart down, shut his organs down, make his body fail, cause, all these things to happen with the immune system, with the nervous system. And like they can put you into anaphylactic shock, like they did to me again and again and again for no cause, no reason. Just you'll swell up like a balloon and have to be rushed to the emergency room to have an EpiPen shoved in your arm for no cause, no reason. And this is what these weapon systems do. It's all been done to me, and I'm sure it's all been done to you. And looking back, we just recognize it more and more, this competition game over our lives.
patriots, it might be a self-imposed limitation to not contradict the overall finding of the Director of National Intelligence.
I'll ask the same thing to you, Mr. Zayed. Is that your understanding, or is there something similar to that going on?
Without a doubt, I think the FBI is becoming better more receptive, but I'll give you a perfect example. In March of 2021, the FBI drafted a workforce message concerning AHIs to go to everyone about what to do, how to report it. It took them 6 months to issue that notice. During that time, my client, Carrie, who's in the 60 Minutes episode, was hit. That workforce message still didn't go out, and it took a long time to even get medical care for many of the FBI victims. It has been a complicated process. There are specifics that we could absolutely provide to in a more protected environment, more so for the privacy of the individuals, but also from a classification standpoint that would show you where the system has broken down.
How high does this go? I mean, we're talking.
The system isn't broken down. It's functioning and operating exactly like it's supposed to. And here we're seeing the Hegelian dialectic played out once again as they spin the narrative somewhat and want to kind of take the attention off of the fact that, the FBI, the CIA, and the National Guard and the local sheriff's office and everybody else is all together at the threat fusion centers in your local community. And under the war on terror, they're able to radicalize, okay, and prosecute a war against citizens because it just allows them to, single out anyone and everyone because it could be anyone. You know what I'm saying? It could be anyone, anywhere, at any time. And so it gives them this stance against the citizens that is radicalized. And they're being trained that freedom is terrorism, war is peace, and your rights are suspicious.
Talking about, as has been testified to today, high, successful, well-performing people. But I mean, can you give us some details about how high this goes in our government?
From a victim standpoint,
Yes, from a victim standpoint.
I mean, it has been reported individuals connected to the NSC and the White House
Those
have been
that,
impacted.
as Lieutenant Colonel Ed Green, those that could brief the president up to.
Yeah, and some of them have been public in some prior 60 Minutes episodes of.
And just so you guys know, the American government is, bankrupt, and we are, even declared in the congressional hearings as bankrupt during the time of the Banker Act. So, all of it is pageantry, just so you know, all of it is a performance and an act. And really, they are employees of the Federal Reserve consolidating the debt and the bankruptcy. And like I said, they pledged us as collateral against the debt at the time, okay, and generations afterwards.
Of believing that they have been impacted. And there would be evidence that would be in the classified sphere.
Of the incidents that are happening in, say, Northern Virginia, Washington, D.C., are family members also reporting having symptoms and being attacked?
Not as many. It has been in the overseas locations where the family members have been impacted, generally because
We're right here, man. We're right here. You know what I'm saying? And millions of us. It's just being ignored and suppressed and suffocated as they continue to oppress us.
it is, as I described in that NSA memo, bathing the residents. And, they have no idea who might be inside the residence.
Yeah.
That's where literally pets have been impacted because they've been in the beam, the wave, whatever.
They'll kill your pets. What did I say to you? They'll kill your pets and make you watch. You think it's a joke? You think it's cute and funny? You think I'm being sensational? They will murder your dog right in front of you, the dog that you love and care for and value and is just a precious creature, not deserving any of this. But like I said, these people are sadistic psychopaths that will live stream your torture on the dark web and gamble and bet on you.
There have been government buildings impacted in Northern Virginia, and it's usually been individuals either in their home, hotels, or driving.
Thank you, Mr. Edgren. We started talking about, the lack of government action recognizing this issue. You compared this to Agent Orange and some of the other ailments our military personnel have suffered, and it takes decades to acknowledge that, yes, this is an issue. It's a medical issue to be taken care of, to be treated on a long-term basis. It's kind of where we started to.
The real sickness, like I said, guys, is the live streaming of our torture on the dark web where people, bid dark coin, concerning the torture of you. It's like a live show that people get off on torturing you, and they're able to do it through the electromagnetic spectrum.
Today, I think that I agree with you and with the chairman and Mr. Swalwell, who worked on this issue for a long time, that we do have to take care of the victims the best we can. Now we're shifting to something else, which
is that a little Freemason symbolism, holding his hands like that, just the little pyramid? And I really believe they have to tell you who they are. That's part of all this. It's, revelation of the method. It is, all about baptizing you into the occult, baptizing you into this satanic New World Order belief system.
is essentially a cover-up. What you all are saying is there's a government cover-up of the fact that something is out there afflicting, targeting us. Is this where we're going with this?
Thank you. Great points. I won't get into classification of the problems. I will tell you that the government
I will. You know what I'm saying?
in the IC assessment is wrong. It's dead wrong. I can't tell you if it's a cover-up, why they're doing this, malfeasance. I won't go there. What I can tell you is that it's my firm belief we already have attribution. Right now is the time for action, retribution, and we need to prioritize taking care of our people because there's a lot of survivors.
Yeah, just more war, basically, is what he's calling for, and that our government needs to save us from the Russians. Okay, like this is just ridiculous garbage. Okay, and they wouldn't have suspended your rights and put in the Patriot Act if, they weren't getting ready to, create a communist dictatorship over us with a technological overlay. And some people don't think they have to worry about that, but it's all these different various aspects of this, different octopus arms of the same octopus with the same head. Do you understand?
Survivors and their families that have been attacked here in the homeland that are in a long wait line to get to Walter Reed because we're not executing funding that's already been allocated by you gentlemen to take care of these survivors. You fix Walter Reed and the Defense Health Program, everyone benefits.
Mr. Zaid.
So, sir, I've been working in the national security field for 30 years, representing some of our most covert intelligence officers, who I respect a great deal, and the agencies. The word cover-up, I will tell you that there are many legitimate reasons why there could be what the agencies are doing, to explain why they are doing it. What I will tell you is
Would you
that the
say,
public
would you use a
statements-
cover-up?
I can tell you why they're doing it. It's the biodigital convergence. It is the push to transhumanism without our will or understanding. They just imposed it on all of us, sprayed us with the smart dust, hooked our bodies up to the cloud without our knowing it. And now they are, exercising their power because it's all in place with these electromagnetic waves and the smart dust in our bodies and being able to read all your inner electrical signals of the body. I mean, that's pretty serious.
Statement or other words?
So cover-up would depend on intent. There could be good reasons to withhold information. I will say that the public statements that the executive branch is making is inconsistent with the classified record. And then it would be Congress's job as an oversight authority to determine why that is, whether it was a legitimate reason to mislead the public or because of some nefarious reason, or all the above.
It's very nefarious. It's hidden in plain sight, and it's an above the law status that these people have got against us. They don't get in trouble. They don't suffer the consequences. They aren't held accountable. And we just continue to suffer as they, flex their power on us and know that we really can't do anything against this coordinated, organized hive mind that's been merged with machines, basically.
But the record on the inside in the classified theater is not consistent with the public statements.
Mr. Graza.
If this is true, and it depends partly on classified data that I'm not privy to, then it's a judgment call that was made to mislead the public in the interest of national security interest.
And then the CIA, invented the term conspiracy theorists, and that's, they're admitting to, the disinformation campaign surrounding this and people worried about flock cameras and all of that. That's part of it. That's part of it. But this is the new, way of hive-minded control over the whole world. You can go to another country, you can go to another state, and you won't be able to get away from it because the full spectrum dominance, the electromagnetic prison camp that we're in, is over all of us.
But it will be up to Congress to decide whether that judgment call was correct. One additional effect of such a judgment call that may not have been taken into account is the effect of encouraging the hostile power. Only in the hypothesis that this is indeed a Russian covert operation, and the whole intelligence community of the United States has publicly denied this ever happening. This will be such a trigger, such an incentive for Russia to escalate and it will be, for somebody who knows.
These guys are just advocating for war. That's what they're doing, basically.
How the mind of President Putin works. I can tell you that if they did it, and the United States government has concluded they didn't do it, this will encourage an escalation in the war in Ukraine. This will encourage an escalation because this person thinks the rest of the world are complete idiots. And really, that's how his mind works. So take this into account when you assess the judgment call.
Thank you. Any other thoughts? Chairman, go ahead, Mr. Edgren.
I would just like to thank this committee for focusing on this issue. One of the things we always did at the DIA was not questioning the individual.
One of the things you guys always do is just take a script and read that script and just perform and act in the Hegelian dialectic, playing both sides off against each other in a scripted way so that people never get to have a real say in anything because you're, preoccupying all their time with fictional engagement and fictional, responses and fictional hearings and all these things that, really don't amount to anything, And of course, the UN, arms treaty, to ban these kind of weapons being used nation against nation. Obviously, they're not following that. But I'm just saying that, to think that this is like Russia or some other country doing this to us is a ridiculous joke.
Are they really having symptoms? We got immediate care for every single symptom. And I think that's the right way to do it. In terms of attribution, I think we over-empowered CIA analysts. And when they kicked it up the food chain to ODNI for NIC assessment, when you look at it, the people they kicked it up to were other CIA analysts on loan. So this was a self-licking ice cream cone. We need more.
The whole system is like that. It's the fox guarding the hen house. It's the people committing the crimes, turning around and posing as the savior to the very crimes they commit. And that's what he's talking about right now.
People inside the Department of Defense or with an operational background to look at this. Because if you show an analyst flowers, they're going to look for a wedding. You show a case officer those flowers, they're going to look for a funeral.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This next question is for Mr. Zaid and Ed Green. Are either of you aware of any individuals who have AHI symptoms have passed away from their ailments?
I do.
Yeah, he said he does. So you have to understand, for many of us, just common ordinary citizens, that grew up in the 80s, grew up in America, and we're just normal people, you know what I'm saying? I mean, and then all of a sudden one day, all this stuff started happening and we realized that warfare was being committed against us. War crimes were being committed against us because that's what it is when someone destroys your life and hijacks your family members and decides to utilize, human biology with technology as a tool against you to cause pain, damage, and destruction and collapse.
I do.
Do we know how many that you're aware of? Do we need to discuss that somewhere else?
For the privacy of the families, it's a small community.
Right. Mr. Chairman, are we going to be able to move into a classified setting at some point? or at another time?
I think that possibility will exist at a later time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There's concerns that the FBI has totally dropped the ball on this investigation. Would the panelists agree with that assessment?
I would. And I would say that a great question for you to ask is to the FBI, how many people did you have assigned to this? And they're going to come back with a big number. And then you're going to ask, how many people were assigned to this full time? And then you're going to see the looks on their faces. Because by my accounts, I had roughly 2 officers from the field office. I had a GS-15 at headquarters and an analyst. And the best one out of all of them was the analyst. And I'll say they all had additional duties. That wasn't their main job. They were doing things like looking at January 6th, looking at terrorism threats here in DC. So it's been very small. It hasn't been resourced properly. And anytime you work with the FBI, and this is
A lot of this, guys, as we well know, the torture and the hidden abuse that they're doing to people, eventually, you know, like he said earlier, you know, it's meant for the person to hurt themselves or hurt others. And then they make up this fake war on terror so they can just label you. And, you know, after they've tortured and tortured and tortured a person and the person can't take it anymore, that's the phenomenon we've been seeing. If those incidences, you know, in the past are actually real, which I kind of question whether or not a lot of these, you know, mass shootings are even real, you know what I mean? But they torture these people and they torture them and they torture them and they torture them until they get the reaction that they're after. And then they just say, we found ourselves a terrorist or an extremist or whatever they label you as. But they do this and, you know, suspend your rights by profile policing so that they can just engage you as if you're a terrorist. And then they use these tools and weapon systems of warfare on the general public, on whoever they've labeled and profiled.
It's fascinating because I did my whole career abroad. It's easier. They put things into a black box. And one of the main problems we had is they had on a criminal hat, crim, as they say in the FBI, and not a CI hat.
Gotcha. Do you believe that Homeland Security investigation should get engaged in this investigation?
Absolutely, because they were cut out. You only had, I believe, my time there, one Homeland Security officer. She was an analyst for Secret Service. Homeland Security
There's not a distinction between these organizations. They're a big cult and they're all one. And they just play us off against each other, pretending like, you know, this thesis, antithesis for the synthesis is somehow something real or connected to reality and the external facts of reality when it has nothing to do with that. That's why they run this process to siphon off your energy like a vampire so that nothing can ever be done because, you know, people are arguing over false issues that they present to us.
investigation should be involved.
All right, guys, I just wanted to share that video. God bless. Messenger of the Cross, Pulse Point Media.